And to celebrate that, we thought it was a good idea of having some of our community members come to Cameron and share their stories with you guys. We have been talking with our teachers about doing some projects and different things with you guys for the rest of the month, which kind of goes along with our community visitor. The Sabbath class is recording it so they can share it with the classroom, so you guys can do notes and you can do other types of projects with our presentation today. So with that said, can we please all welcome our two guests from the Barstow Police Department.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to come and talk to you guys today. I really do love this opportunity to come and tell you guys about being a police officer with the Barstow Police Department, and more specifically, being a female police officer with the Barstow Police Department. So my name is Corporal Catherine Gregg. Most people just call me Corporal Gregg. I am a corporal with the Barstow Police Department. I have been a police officer for over 20 years, and I have worked for Barstow Police Department that whole entire time. I started off as, I used to work at the mall, and when I was going to college and working at the mall, I took some classes in college where I learned how about the criminal justice system. And with that, I became a little bit interested in law enforcement. And I do have some family that's in law enforcement, and they kind of helped me decide that I want to be a police officer. So I graduated from college, and Barstow Police Department hired me, and they put me through the police academy. The police academy is 6 months of training, physical, book learning, how to shoot, how to take people, and arrest people. If I get into a fight, how to deal with that. 6 months of intensive training to become a police officer. After I graduated from the academy, I spent 6 months with a training officer and rode around Barstow Police Department, responding to calls, doing traffic stops, helping with traffic accidents and all of the things that police officers do. And I finally graduated from my training program and became a police officer, and was working patrol for several years with the police department, responding to calls, responding to emergencies, and helping people. So, excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold. So I did that for many years. I was a patrol officer for many, many years. I worked day shift, night shift, weekends, holidays, all of it. As a police officer. And then I promoted and became a corporal. And a corporal is like a senior officer and a mentor to new police officers. And I was a training officer. So then I would train all the new officers to come and show them how to be a police officer out on the streets. After that, I became a detective. I would work detectives for a couple of years. The crimes that I used to work were crimes against children and crimes of family crimes. So those are the types of crimes that I would work. So a lot of the kids that I saw had gotten hurt in some way, and I would go and help them and hopefully maybe arrest the bad guy that hurt those kids. I was a detective for a couple of years, and now I'm back working as the officer who goes out and looks for new police officers. That's my job right now. I go to the colleges and try and get officers. I go out to job fairs and try and find people who want to be police officers. Is there anybody here who's ever considered being a police officer? Raise your hand. Yes. Awesome. I love that. Boys and girls, we need both. So some of the things that we need to do to be good police officers is you got to graduate school. You got to graduate school. You got to consider going to college, because college helps you become a better adult and helps you become a better police officer. You got to stay physically fit. Why do you think we got to stay physically fit? Right here. So we can catch up to those bad guys. That is right. This job is so much fun that we get to chase and catch bad guys. And that is one of the funnest parts of our job. So we have to stay physically fit. We have to read and write really well. And part of the reason why we have to read and write really well is because not only is our job helping out people with emergencies and catching bad guys, but we have to write it all down in a report. We have to do reports for everything we do. It has to go on paper. And that goes to the judge, and the judge decides if the bad guys are going to stay in jail or if they're going to get out. So we have to write a really good report so we can show the judge that the bad guy needs to stay in jail. Okay? Another thing we always have to do is tell the truth. We have to tell the truth. Officers cannot be liars. So that is one thing that officers cannot be, is a liar. So we always have to tell the truth, and we always have to do the right thing. Always have to do the right thing. Whenever you're making a decision in life, make sure it's the right decision. It's the right thing to do. Okay? We also can never be in trouble. We're not supposed to ever be in trouble. So if you ever if you're a troublemaker, unfortunately, you're not going to be a police officer. We have to make sure that the police officers that we have are people that are the best example of how to be as a person. You know what I mean? So we want those people to do the right thing at all times. And one of the last things that we need to do is be brave. Brave. That is one of the things we have to be. We get into some scary situations every once in a while. And some people don't like that and they don't want to deal with that and they run the other way. But we have to be the ones that have to be brave, and we have to run towards the danger. And that's okay with me. So not only am I a police officer, I'm a mom. I'm a mom. I have 2 kids that are in elementary school, 2 boys. And when I'm not being a police officer, I'm doing just the regular mom stuff. You know, I'm running my kids to football practice, and we're doing stuff on the weekends, and we're going up to the mountains to go up in the snow and all of that fun stuff, you know. But then when I'm back at work, I'm at work and I'm representing Barstow Police Department. I'm representing the city of Barstow, and I'm always doing the right thing. Okay? Let me have my partner introduce herself.
All right, I'm Detective Day with the Barstow Police Department. How I became a police officer, I worked at Fort Irwin. I was a criminal analyst, and I also trained, I volunteered at Victory Fitness. You guys know where that's at? Okay. It's a gym on West Main Street. So I used to teach there, and I used to teach at Fitness MD. So do you guys think I wanted to be a police officer? I never thought I was going to be a police officer. So Corporal Greg here used to go to my classes that I used to teach, and she said, "Hey, I think that you'd be a good police officer." So I said, "All right." So I applied, and 6 months later, I was in the police academy. So that was about 4 years ago. So that was 4 years ago. So in the past 4 years, I've done a lot here. So when I first started, I was the only patrol female officer. Corporal Greg was a detective at the time, and I was literally the only female on patrol. So there is a need for female officers. We need females to join the police force. I became a SRT member. Do you guys know what SRT is? No. Do you guys know what SWAT is? Yes. Okay. So I was the first SWAT officer for the Barstow Police Department. So in order to become the first female SWAT officer for the Barstow Police Department. So I had a test with the boys. I had to perform in physical agility, and I also had to perform in shooting. So shooting, I had to shoot 90% or higher. So I became an SRT member, or the SWAT team member. And now I am a detective. So my specialty, like Corporal Greg, are special victims. We know what special victims are? Okay, so I'd say 95% of my victims are females or children. So if you guys are ever a victim of a crime, that's going to come to me to be investigated. And normally children and women are more comfortable speaking to a female officer, right? So again, there's a big need for females. I love my job. I love being a police officer. I am so happy Corporal Greg convinced me to be a police officer because I never thought I was going to be a police officer. All right, and that's it about me.
I'm using the microphone because my throat is about over, but Detective Day definitely can yell all the way to the back of the classroom if she needs to. I know that the front row here has some questions for us, so I'll go ahead and answer some of the questions. I'm going to start this way and work my way this way, so just one question at a time, okay? Go ahead.
Go ahead and stand up, Ms. Kelso.
Oh, yeah, if you want to stand up, do they judge me for being a woman? Is that people or my partners? People. There has been a couple occasions where I have dealt with people out in the community who did not like talking to a female officer. They wanted a boy officer. And I told them, I'm your officer. Like, you can talk to me or you can be done talking to police. Like, that's your choice. So they don't get to pick and choose who they get to talk to. So yes, I have been judged as a female officer, but I just try and help people the best way that I know how. And I don't let their judgment on me sway me in any way. Next question. Everybody be prepared to stand up when it's your turn. Go ahead.
Stand up and say your question.
Oh, canine officers. So we have two canine officers. We have an apprehension dog, which is the dog that goes and catches the bad guys, like if we're in a foot pursuit, or if the bad guy's in a car or in a house and doesn't want to come out. We have one dog that does that. His name is Boyko. And then we also have another dog called a detection dog. The detection dog goes out and finds drugs and guns in cars or houses if we need them to look for drugs or guns. Everybody knows what drugs are? Yes. Do we touch drugs? No. And everybody knows what a gun is? Yes. Do you ever touch a gun? No. If you see drugs or guns, you get an adult. You do not touch those. You guys understand? Those are not to be touched. Okay, but the dogs are trained with the officer and they practice every month about what their job is, if it's apprehension or detection. Okay, next question. What inspired me to become a police officer? Well, like I said, I used to work at the mall and I was going to college and I actually got my degree as an English degree because I wanted to be a teacher. But I have a couple family members who are police officers, and I took some criminal justice classes in college, and I know that I wanted to help people. So when I started taking those criminal justice classes, and with the help of my family, they helped me decide to become a police officer. Go ahead, next.
What cases are non-lethal guns needed?
In what cases are non-lethal guns needed? So if someone's just yelling at police officers and they have no weapons, right? They don't have a knife or they don't have a gun, then the officers can use non-lethal force to control the situation. So we have other devices that we carry, such as tasers, batons, pepper spray. Those are non-lethal devices, and we can utilize those to gain control of the situation.
What is the hardest part of the police academy?
The hardest part of the police academy, yeah, no sleep. You don't sleep because you're at the academy the whole entire time, not like day and night, but you're there all day, and then they send you home with a bunch of homework. And you're doing that homework all night long. And then you're in the morning, you're running and running. We ran miles and miles. And it was hard to be so tired and have to do all that learning and then have to do homework and try and get some sleep and do it all over again the next day for 6 months. Yes.
Why did you become a police officer?
For the same reason I mentioned before, is that I was inspired by family, and some of the classes that I took in college inspired me as well.
How old do you have to become a police officer?
That is a great question. How old do you have to be a police officer? You have to be 21 by the time you graduate the academy. So you can start your hiring process at the age of 20. And if you're 20 and a half when you start the academy, the 6 months, you'll be 21 by the time you graduate. So 21 years old. But we do have kids that come and help us out at the police department. You have to be 14 years old to come and volunteer and be an explorer with the Barstow Police Department. They're called Police Explorers. I'm also in charge of them, and we have over 20 of them at the department. We have 20 teenagers who come and help us out, and many of these teenagers want to be police officers, and they come and help us out with events, community events that we have. And so in order to be an explorer, you have to be 14 years old. Go ahead. All our police officers have badges. The day that we are sworn in, we are given a badge, and that is your badge for the entire time at your department. So, yes, all police officers have a badge. Next question.
What do you have to do in school to become a police officer?
You have to do well in school to be a police officer. You have to get good grades. They don't have to be the best grades, but we want the smartest of the smart to be police officers. So the harder you try, the better you do, the more likely it is for you to be a police officer. Next question.
When you were a kid, did you always want to become a police officer?
When I was a kid, did I want to be a police officer? No, I did not. I wanted to be a teacher. I started my college to be a teacher, and that's what I went to college for initially. But then, like I said, I took those criminal justice classes, and my path turned. Next question.
Do you have any police officers in your family that you look up to?
Well, my grandfather was a sheriff's deputy with LASO, and I loved going down, and when he was off duty, he would have his radio, and I could listen to the radio traffic that was going on, and that was a memory that I had, and I loved hearing all the excitement of what was going on the police radio. So yes, thank you.
What is it like to be a female police officer when there are mostly men?
Well, it sometimes can be difficult. I grew up in a family with all brothers. I have 3 brothers. So I was kind of used to being around boys all the time. So that was nothing new to me. So when I became a female police officer at the time, I was the only female police officer for a very long time. And there's been a couple female officers that have come and gone since I've been there at the department. But they never put us on the same shift. You know, they try and make it a diverse shift. So the 2 female officers, I never saw my partners, you know, because they would work a different shift. But I love right now because we have 3 female officers working right now on patrol, or I'm sorry, different jobs. Like I do all the recruitment and hiring. Detective Day is a detective, and then we have Officer Marquez who's out on the streets. We also have a female officer in the academy right now, and we have 1 female officer or applicant in backgrounds. This would be the most female officers we have ever had at Barstow Police Department. Next question.
How hard is it to be a police officer?
I think it's not easy to be a police officer. I told you about the education part of it, the physical part of it, the always having to do the right thing. All the time, we always are taught that to act, look, and be professional at all times, even when we're not on duty. So that is something that we have been taught to do. And I think sometimes some of the stuff that we see as police officers, we see some of the baddest things happen to people. And sometimes that's very hard. So that is what we're here to do. And I don't mind going through some of those hard things so that way I know I'm helping somebody, in the end. So any more questions? Yes.
So our students work on showing kindness, determination, and support.
Yes.
How important are those qualities to your job?
All of those are very important to us, especially integrity. That's the part about telling the truth and doing the right thing. That's what integrity really means, telling the truth and doing the right thing. But all of those qualities are basically what an officer is. You have to have all of those qualities to be a good police officer. So that is good that you guys are learning that and doing that now. So very good. Any other questions? One question over here. Yes. Actually, they're not German Shepherds. Our canines are called Malinois, which is a different kind of dog. It's a smaller looking and a darker looking. It looks like a German Shepherd, but they're darker and they're a little bit smaller and they are more agile than a German Shepherd. Right here on the black jacket. Yes. You have a question? No. No. Do you get to touch guns? No. No. Any other questions? I'm gonna come on this side. Right there, yes. If we want to track them down and they have a long license plate, how do we track them? They stole it? Okay. Well, believe it or not, there are cameras around town that keep track of all the license plates that are traveling through Barstow. They're in certain spots, they're not everywhere, but we do have a few cameras. So if we need to look for a certain kind of car or truck and it doesn't have a license plate or the license plate doesn't belong to that vehicle, we can check our cameras to see if we can track down that vehicle. It's been a very helpful tool with our department. All the way in the back, teacher. It's very rare that a taser is lethal. It's usually because somebody has a medical condition or they're under the influence of a narcotic or something like that. But it's very, very rare that a taser is lethal. We are trained when to use a taser, and there are certain risk levels that we are not supposed to be using a taser, like the elderly, medical people with obvious medical problems, and also juveniles. So, one more question right here in the front. If a dog is hurt or shot, we do have emergency medical services for our canine officers. It has happened. We haven't had a dog shot, but we have had a dog injured. Sometimes when they have to go through a glass window, they've been injured. We had one canine officer who was involved in a very bad rollover crash, and he had to go to the emergency room. It's in Victorville, so they take him to their own emergency hospital. All right.
And the officers were nice enough to take time away from their day and their schedule to come and talk to us, and we tell them thank you.
Of course.